Hey guys, welcome. Welcome to the Good Morning News podcast, the first decentralized news organization, that I should say. How you guys doing?
Fantastic, my friend. How are you?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Doing great, doing great. So today I wanted to talk about some of our roadmap or projects that's going on. You know, we didn't have a chance to talk last time about the tokenomics. So why don't you get from there? Bear Hunter.
Yeah.
Publisher.
All right. So, one of the things we kind of just rambled on last time. We didn't get to really touch on the token that we have, which really is, in my opinion, the engine that should be driving this whole thing. It isn't yet, just because we're not to scale. But yes, Good Morning News does have a token that we use to, and its only use case is simply to pay the people who contribute to Good Morning News. So if you're a writer and you contribute something to the organization, you're going to get paid in our paper tokens that are immediately redeemable for MATIC, or we even have a bank pool as well. So if you wanted to just go trade your paper straight for bank or MATIC, you could do that.
That's awesome. What else? It's out there.
Yeah,
I see there's a bunch of stuff going on.
I didn't, just a moment, I didn't know we have a pool with paper and bank. Do we have?
We do.
Oh,
I will
cool.
say of course, our liquidity is shallow, meaning that, if you for some reason were to acquire a whole bunch of paper tokens, you couldn't just go dump all of them and, immediately cash out with millions of dollars. That's not going to happen. But if you are paid, for contributing to Good Morning News, which would, right now we generally pay about $20 worth for every article that is submitted to the organization, for every piece of original writing, I should say, that's submitted to the organization.
So you're paying paper tokens, right?
Yes, we pay contributors in the paper token, and like I said, immediately redeemable for your choice of either MATIC or bank. And yeah, so there's a real incentive there, I think, to contribute to the organization and make a little bit of extra money on the side. Not life-changing money, but a little bit of extra money, I think, is always good.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, maybe Hero wants to say something.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the really important part about the paper token from a contributor's perspective is not so much the amount of money that you're paid for, your article or your voiceover, which we also pay for in paper. But it's with the ethos of what we do here, right? Is that even if it's not much in terms of convertible fiat, it's still important to recognize contribution with something, besides just a pat on the back or a happy face emoji. And so a paper token is one way that we can do that. And also, as a decentralized news organization, it's great to be able to keep track of contributors on the blockchain, right? And so we can look to see the movement of paper and know what our contributors are doing with the paper, and the contributors can know, what else is happening with that, who else is contributing, who's getting paid, who's converting it, etc. So it plays into the open nature of what we do here.
And nowadays, just to kind of add on top of that, Hero, nowadays it almost feels like you have to have a token, right? If you're doing anything like this in the Web3 space, if you don't have a token, then you are absolutely leaving yourself open to some sort of vampire attack by some other group that is doing the exact same thing you are. And if they have a token, then they're going to take all of your, in this case, your community and your contributors.
So yeah, the latest example is the Lux Rare token
in OpenSea platform. Absolutely.
Yeah, and OpenSea. We don't know if OpenSea is going to do a token or not, but that platform Lux Rare just came out, and oh, boom, here's a token. Everyone that traded 3 ETH got a token.
This could be dangerous for me to say, considering that our publication is on OpenSea, but it is clear to me that there does need to be competitors out there, and it's also clear to me that OpenSea has shown their true colors time and time again with what their motives are, right? And it seems to be profit driven. So that could be simply a byproduct of their location, being located in the United States. It simply could be easier for them to do an IPO on the stock market as opposed to doing a token offering, which could get them in trouble with the SEC. So I kind of get it from their point of view, but again, it seems that they've shown their true colors, and that they're more interested in profit than the Web3 ethos, right? The ethos that we strive to accomplish, I guess.
Yeah, it's just
maybe...
like we
Go ahead,
just
Diego.
like we were talking last meeting here. Money is important, but we are not in this space because of money, you know. There's
Right.
something more, there's something behind. And when you say about our ethos, it's always, I always say that for people interested in Good Mornings, yeah, we can make some kind of money, you know, helping and working for the organization, but we are not here for this, you know. Nobody, like you said once, nobody ever
Yeah, yeah,
got me
boy, I'm
selling
convinced at
paper,
this
right?
point I'm going to be broke till I'm dead just because of this ethos. But you know what? I sleep good at night, and that's important.
You
Yeah.
sleep? I didn't know that. That's amazing.
This is
Yeah,
new,
me
right?
neither.
This is new.
That's news. That's good news.
That is what we're going
Yeah.
to talk about later. Yeah, well, I mean, it's really interesting, right? Because, you know, to your point a minute ago, publisher. So, you know, one story we did some time ago is the story on OpenSea, and when they were thinking about doing the IPO, right? And because of community backlash, they pulled back, even though they'd hired, you know, a CFO who was conversant in IPOs. And then since then, we've seen, you know, the Open DAO essentially hijack OpenSea's community. Now we see It Looks Rare do the same thing. I mean, you know, I was, you know, a beneficiary of both those airdrops. Like, not a lot, because I don't do a lot with NFT trading, but, you know, I mean, honestly, a handful, 100, you know, combined for both of those airdrops. And I think that's it, right? So they are going, well, look, you know, OpenSea, if you're not going to do this right, if you're not going to create a tokenized community, well, shit, we'll just make one for you. And they did. And OpenSea, I'm sorry, but the Open DAO has, I mean, basically become a Flash community overnight, right? And, you know, I'm part of their server. I don't spend much time there, but I see as many server notifications on the Open DAO as I see in any other active server. So, you know, there is a very powerful community there that literally was created in reaction to OpenSea's closed dynamics. And that's really the power of Web3, right? It's like, well, hey, you know, you're not going to do this, we'll do it for you. And they did.
Yeah. And, you know,
And
I'm glad you brought that up, because now, you know, at the end of the day, where's your allegiance going to lie now, Hero? With the company that's more interested in, you know, financial gain, or with the company, or not the company, but with the protocol in this instance that just gave you free money out of thin air to use their protocol? I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Well, and we can't, and as far as I know, and I'm not conversant on the Open DAO, but I mean, I don't believe there's a platform yet, you know,
Not yet.
versus like Looks Rare, which does have a platform, you know, right? And I haven't explored it. I went on there, got my airdrop and left. But
that's fair. That's fair.
But I mean, my understanding is, at least from the scuttlebutt, to bring an old school news term into this, is that you know, they do have some functionality at Looks Rare that OpenSea doesn't have. And so
They do. And a lot of that is the token. You know, you going on there and you can stake your token right now for like 800% APR on that thing, which, you know, is always Ponzi, right? And we acknowledge that it's clearly a Ponzi scheme, but that's okay. That's how you get liquidity over there. And that's how you get liquidity with the token itself. So
I learned an interesting thing about staking the other day. You guys know I'm not super DeFi. I mean, I'm a DeFi, not a noob, but, you know, I'm no gigabrain DeFi guy. But so when we're talking APYs for DeFi, it's not that you take your $1,000 and if you have a $100,000 APY, that all of a sudden you have $1 million, right? But you do get more tokens, you know, so you get more of the LPs.
Yeah, the Ponzi there is that hopefully you're gaining more tokens before the price of the token itself, you know, goes to zero. That's the Ponzi. But you know what? That's the game of chicken we all play when we dabble in that sort of thing. Sorry, here, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You said it. You said it more eloquently than I ever could have. So so that's it. You know, when we were doing the DeFi story the other day, I'm like, hey, publisher, does this sound right? You know, because you know, I know enough to know that I am not super conversant. I can talk the talk, but when you're actually writing an article on something, right, you figure out what you know and you don't know pretty quick.
You do, yeah.
And so it turned out I did okay, but you know,
yeah, you did great.
It is the ultimate test, though. Do I know a subject? Well, go write 300 words in a half hour on it. You're going to find out real quick what you know and don't know.
I think it's a case of you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, we never know our blind spots, right? Until we meet them.
Well, you know, to go back to our friend Donald Rumsfeld from, you know, 20 years ago now, there are the known unknowables and the unknowable unknowables, you know, and so however you can parse that. Nonetheless, we're off track now. Our apologies, sir.
Yeah, no, just let me take a step back. When we were talking about new protocols, please, if there's a shadow coder, super shadow coder listening to us, please fork the POAPs and make new platforms so we can make POAPs, please.
Hey guys, moving forward a little bit, I want to ask you, publisher, maybe Hero can help that question, maybe Diego too. What are the feedbacks that we're getting from our members? Like, what do you think that needs to be improved? And there is one question that I get from some people that I try to explain GMN is that is this project can this project sustain itself in the future? Maybe you can answer that question better.
So yeah, I can answer that question. I mean, if you're looking for some sort of roadmap on how long GMN could sustain itself with zero money coming in, right? If we were to stop all sales of the publication right now, how long could GMN continue to publish? And the answer is on Polygon, gosh, I'd have to crunch the numbers, but probably more than a year, just from the income that we've brought in right now. I would say, because I mean, our overhead is very, very low. A lot of that is because right now Hero and I do in TrueCat and CWOK clearly do most of the work behind the scenes. So we're not paying out a whole lot to contributors. Hopefully that changes as quickly as possible. So it's a great question. How long can GMN sustain itself? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that, but I can answer just from a technical point of view of the overhead and what it takes to update just the smart contract every night. And that overhead's very, very low. So from a technical point of view, how long can GMN sustain itself? I'd say for quite some time.
Yeah, and you hit on something important too, right? From a technical perspective, we have, Polygon is so efficient, right? Transaction wise, that it doesn't require, much MATIC to do what we do. The more maybe suspect question is how long, can the humans continue to do this on a daily basis?
Oh, gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it's just another way of looking at it, right? And so, I mean, I'm healthy, publisher's healthy, TrueCat's healthy, CDouble's healthy. But what if someone gets knocked down with COVID for 3 days, right? And what if 3 of us get knocked down with COVID for 3 days or something? And then, being, a centralized, decentralized news organization, which is looking for more contributors, what happens if a couple key members go down, right? So, maybe this is too much dirty laundry for this podcast, but it's true, right? In the nature of open and transparent Web3, it's important. And so this is also like a call to action for people to come in and contribute, because we have a lot of people who lurk in our server and come to our AMAs. But when it comes, when it's 5:54 p.m. Pacific time and publisher blasts out and goes, "Who's writing tonight?" I'll jump in at 5:58 and laugh, right? Because it's me. And like we talked about last time, I mean, at some point that's not going to be the case, right? And so, there is there's a kind of the capital of transaction costs, but then there's the human capital component, and so, we can go forever, right? And we love this so much that, I mean, you're going to scrape me off the ground and I'll find a way to type 300 words. Just like you, publisher, are going to find a way, to ship this stuff out, right? And CDouble's going to keep the machines running in the background, and TrueCat, who is purely essential, right? I mean, without question. But if she doesn't show up, it's not going to be the same quality of story, period. But it will still ship. And just like if I don't show up, publisher will still write the story. So it's really like, what happens to publisher? What happens to CDouble? Now, if they get knocked down, I'll be honest with you, we're screwed right now, And so, the human capital is the problem. And so we need more human capital. We got to focus on decentralizing our roles so that other people can do that work. And, that's all part of the roadmap for 2022. But that's really the choke point in this operation so far. We can go a long time, but it's just really the unexpected, side hit that would cause us to not publish issue 143, right? So that is a truthful answer. I think publisher would agree with me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said, buddy. It's something I don't even often think about is that human side of it. I'm glad you do. I'm glad we have somebody here who does, because sometimes I do feel a bit like a machine just cranking this stuff out. Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, you know, it does cross my mind whenever we do get into those moments, Hero, where you are the only one that that responds to that writer call. You know, at those moments, I do think about it. I do wonder how long can Hero continue to write every night before burnout sets in, and it will eventually, right? It happens to everybody.
No, it actually won't happen to me because I'm not human, you know. I do have a family, right? So like tonight, like I have promised my family for like 2 weeks that I will take a night off and watch a movie with them. And so I will write a story before 5 and drop it, right? And, you know, by the good graces so far, you know, when we have original content, it does get voted up, which is useful. It will not always get voted up, I don't think. Diego doesn't like my stories, you know.
No, don't say that, please. No.
They always vote against you, huh?
No, don't say that.
It's an old joke, my friends. Nobody gets the joke unless you see the Discord, you know. And so, you know, but truthfully, right? Like, so tonight I'll drop an early one so I can watch a movie with my family. And I said to them, well, I'm not going to be able to not totally pay attention because there might be questions with editing or headlines. Or God forbid it gets voted down and then I'm called away to go write a quick story, right? Sorry, pause it for a half hour while I write. But yeah, you know, that's it though, right? And so, you know, for the foreseeable future, which for me is like forever, because how far of your horizon can you have? You know, I'm writing a story every night. You know, period, right? Just like you're publishing every night. So
no, I feel bad now. I will vote for your stories now every time.
Diego, this is the
that's the point of decentralization. Yes, you can vote on any news that you find to be interesting.
And I mean, there will be a point where, you know, I write something and I drop it in and it doesn't get upvoted, you know. And Diego, this is like, I love it, right? Because you don't have some kind of native allegiance, you know. And you know, it's the only long-running joke we have, Diego. So you're the butt of it. I'm sorry, my friend, but it's really the only newsroom joke we got right now.
Anyways, publisher, are you working on something new or any improvements that you can talk about it, or is like just a secret for now?
So when am I not working on something new? My goodness. So many irons in the fire, guys. I don't even know where to begin, honestly. We did just launch the pet store, which has been something I've been working on for a while. The original vision for that was to launch something called the Optimistic Fiche, and they were going to be strictly on the Optimism network, which at the time was going to be a great way for our little community here to go and play on Optimism, just kind of learn what that is like over there. Unfortunately, I ran into a lot of issues, and again, we've talked about this. The pricing's still not quite where I need it to be for my personal financial situation over on Optimism. So last week, I just went ahead and decided to deploy the new Fiche contract on Polygon, where we've got everything else, and just go ahead and let the community play with it. Because at the end of the day, it's actually a really, really cool smart contract. I know I might get into the weeds here a little bit, but I'm going to do it. It's they're SVGs. I'm sure a lot of you have no clue what an SVG is. Basically, it stands for scalable vector graphic. Long story short, what it means is that the entire image that you see with your little fiche is all stored on the smart contract itself. There are no IPFS servers. There's no external servers whatsoever. The entirety of the data for the image is completely on chain, which I think is super cool. There's also some really neat randomness that's built into the smart contract, which allows for randomized colors, or allows for randomized sizes, different pupil sizes. So you get some that look a little cracked out, which is pretty funny. But even I, as the creator of the contract, I have no idea what the next fish is going to look like that comes out, right? If you go minute fish right now, I couldn't tell you what it's going to look like. It's completely random. Very cool. Sorry, I nerded out a little bit.
No, I want you to nerd out a little bit more, right? Because I think this is a common misconception about NFTs. So, you know, your normal NFT, the image itself is not on chain, right? It's hosted.
No, not at all.
It's hosted on a server. You know, yep. Best case IPFS. You know, maybe better case Airweave, but generally, like, you know, name your favorite NFT project, and if those servers go down and they're down forever, you don't have an NFT anymore with an image.
That's right. It's gone.
It's gone. And so, you know, nobody really talks about this dirty secret that really, like, Web 2 powers the NFT ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think it's 90% of all NFTs are not on chain, which
It
is
is.
our differential. Like our publication is 100% on chain, right?
It
That's
is.
right. And
I wonder if these famous guys spending lots and lots of money with apes know about that.
No, there's no
They
way,
don't.
you know. I mean, you got to think about like,
Yeah.
you know, so you know, one project that I am on the core team of is called DAO Punks, right? And you know, our images are 4K images. Oh, they might be 2K images, actually. I think I've been corrected on that before.
They're 4K. They're 4K.
Okay, they're 4K. The file size is
Massive,
huge, right? And you know, I don't know like how that translates into what it costs to bring it on chain, but it's prohibitive, right?
Oh, you couldn't. You absolutely couldn't do it.
Okay,
yeah, there'd be no way.
Yeah, and so you know, we often talk about just within our community, or at least with the core team, like what happens if the servers go down? You know, honestly, like if it's 90%, I'd be shocked. I would more like think it's like 99.99999% are on servers. I just don't know, to be honest, because you know the visual complexity of most NFTs, I think, prohibits them from being on chain.
Yep. So there's a spectrum there, right? There is a broad spectrum of decentralization on the back end for metadata when it comes to NFTs. In your most centralized version of it, you have your image completely stored on somebody's server, right? Whether it be whatever your web hosting service is. So in our case, it would have been stored through the whatever service we're using, Bluehost servers, right? We don't do that, but that would be the most centralized version of it. A step up from that would be storing the metadata on the IPFS, which is the interplanetary file system. Often I feel like IPFS is used as a cop-out to decentralization because so for GMN, for the actual publication itself, it is stored on the IPFS. That image itself is, and the audio is stored on the IPFS. So what that means is that unless I'm running a node here at my own house, an IPFS node, which I do run for GMN, but unless I'm doing that, whatever pinning service that you're using for the IPFS, if that goes down, then you've lost your metadata, right? So there is a centralized point of failure there if you're not running your own node. And so that's probably, I would say that cohort of NFT probably constitutes 70 to 80% of the entire NFT space is built using that functionality. GMN's a little different because, again, I firmly believe in the IPFS system. It's something that I've used for years, long before I even got into crypto. And all that really is just decentralized servers, right? So all the IPFS is, boiled down to a nutshell, is just if I have a server at my house and COOK has a server at his house and we're both sharing those files back and forth. That's all that is, right? But it's on a global scale. So everybody in the world is sharing those files back and forth. That way there is no centralized point of failure. The kicker there, though, is if I'm storing something on my IPFS node and COOK isn't storing that exact same thing on his IPFS node, if mine goes down, then it's gone. But if COOK is storing it on his, then we have that version that gets called as opposed to the one that just went down on mine. If that makes sense. Again, getting into the weeds, probably just wasted a lot of time. Sorry.
Yeah, that was a very good explanation, though. I mean, I kind of understand it. Of course, there's more to be understand, but that was a start.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. Actually, you know, Diego was with me the other day when I was actually showing a lot of this back end stuff to our friend Perchy. And, you know, I think Diego got to see a little behind the curtain, you know, that day. It's, I at the time, I explained it a bit like magic, right? Once you know how a magic trick is done, boy, that's a bit of that can knock the breath out of you, right? Because then it's not magic anymore, right? Now it's just a trick. Yeah. And I feel like NFTs are a lot of that, a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of trickery. And with our fiche contract, to bring us full circle, there's none of that. It's all completely on the contract. You can go look at the SVG data right there on the contract, right through Etherscan, or in our case, Polyscan. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, that is awesome, actually. All right, I think we can, unless Hero wants to say something, I think we can go to the next topic here.
I think this is a perfect time to go to the next topic.
Awesome. Yeah. I was gonna ask you,
truly, like, we could go deep in the weeds, you know,
Yeah, we can save
interplanetary
some
file
we can
system.
save some talk for the next episode.
Yeah,
For
we're
the next
good.
episode is we want to go technical, but I mean, let's save some for the next ones.
You
I
know,
was just gonna
sometimes
ask
I
you
feel like you
guys.
guys need a butterfly net to get me down sometimes. That's okay.
I was just gonna ask you guys if was there any publication this week that caught up your attention though?
Hero?
Yeah, let's work backwards, not to play to a native audience, but the announcement by the mayor of Rio de Janeiro yesterday, or that they were going to, well, I mean, I guess they're going to take 1% of their treasury reserves and invest it in Bitcoin. I thought was a really interesting story this week.
Great write-up, by the way, Hero. You knocked it out of the park, buddy. That was a great read.
Like
Yeah.
I was joking with Diego earlier. I mean, at least I had enough wits to go look up, what gold was in Portuguese as opposed to Spanish, right? And so
Ouro, right? Ouro.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
ouro. Yeah.
and so at
Lots
least
of, lots of people misunderstood that. They think here in Brazil we speak Spanish, but it's Portuguese. It's kind of similar, but it's totally
A little
different,
different, yeah.
actually.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
different, and so but it was interesting for a number of reasons, right? Like one, I think the controversion, meaning that I think it was really interesting to think about, in the context of colonialization, how the Portuguese, came to, that area of Brazil,
Mhm.
nearly 500 and 620 years ago now, found gold a couple hundred years thereafter, and then we all know what happened, not good for anybody. And now, we're talking about taking a Western technology, and I think you could still call Portugal a Western country for sure, right? Western technology, the stuff that the West has developed in terms of the technology, and now we're seeing it used to help this new kind of digital gold, right? To help propel certain areas of the world forward, right? And I mean, Rio is obviously a very advanced city, and Brazil's, a very advanced country, right? But still, I like the narrative that we're using these Western technologies outside of the perceived Western world to, really, in Rio's case, not bootstrap perhaps, but I mean, sort of take the lead in terms of what this technology can do for its population. And so, I mean, Miami attempted to do this, right, last year and did not, whereas Rio's going to do it, at least theoretically. Now, Miami said they do it too. Rio says they'll do it, but I have this feeling, and I'd love to get you guys' perspective, that Rio's actually going to follow through with this, right? It's not the smoke and mirrors hype of Francis Suarez in Miami, but Mayor Pais is going to do this, and he really wants to make Rio a hub for this crypto innovation in South America. I love that vision. I love what it can do for Brazil, what it can do for Rio, and I was excited to read that story, and it was really fun to write, to be honest. And so I think that's my, working backwards, we can talk about more stories, but that struck me as a very cool thing. For me, it's just an ethos. It's like the pay to play stuff where you see, people taking like Oxy Infinity in the Philippines, right, and using it to supplement income. Same kind of thing, taking Western technology but using it, in developed countries. Not like Brazil is a developing country. I consider it a modern capitalist country. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, man, you guys go, dude, and you guys do this and leave the Western world behind, because quite frankly, we have dominated long enough.
You know what it is, Hero?
Right.
They're using these technologies to build escape hatches from a corrupt financial institution that has suppressed these countries for decades, right? I mean, we've seen the dollar been weaponized globally to suppress these economies. There's no doubt about it. And Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever your cryptocurrency of choice is, it's an escape hatch from that system for the people of those countries.
That's right. One of my favorite things is like every time that someone comes at me with cryptocurrency is bad for the environment, this and that, and I'm like, what does it cost in terms of environmental economics to prop up the petrodollar? We spend $800 billion in the US on the defense budget alone. That's just the public one. It's a $1 trillion enterprise from the US alone to make the dollar the dominant currency in the world, right? And and what is the environmental cost of that? How much diesel does the U.S. military burn every day, right?
I
And
mean,
so what
the
is
humanitarian cost of that, right? Because you could lump every war we've been in for the past 50 years into that same category.
You don't even have to go that far, because people who criticize the proof of work, saying that, okay, to mine some coins you spend energy, but how much energy does people spend to drive to the banks, to work in the banks, to run nodes that runs all the information for the bank, the light spans, everything.
Christmas light.
Yeah, this kind of stuff, and people doesn't seem to care for that. I was talking with an artist a couple of days ago, and he was saying that he was releasing his NFT collection on Solana, because everybody was saying that, oh, Solana is a kind of energy efficient and kind of so. And I said, hey, but how about the computer? You have you need a GPU that runs a lot of energy, and your monitor and all this kind of stuff. And people don't seem to care for this energy that's spent, but they care for energy spent for crypto. And it doesn't make sense for me.
Man,
And
all they are,
yeah.
in my humble opinion, are just simply talking points for, boy, I don't want to say our enemies. That's probably not the right choice of
legacy institutions publisher. We'll use a general
yes,
term.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for those of us that are in this space, that are in it every day, it's just a joke, right? It literally carries no weight with me. I care very much about our environment. Yes, the entire green statement there.
Well, but
I don't want to see anything bad happen to the environment, but at the same time, the energy usage, I think, is just, it's just a joke. These are just talking points used by people who have other motives, right?
Well, let's talk about this real quick, and now we're going to go slightly off topic, but we'll come back real quick. Like, so your so-called green vehicles, right? Whether that's hybrid, whether it's electric, whatever. It takes a massive mining operation to extract rare earth minerals, to build batteries. It takes a number of really complex engineering and manufacturing processes to build the various components in the cars, let alone assemble the cars. When you go and you charge your car, it's not like doesn't have its own environmental cost. Some parts of the world that's going to be done through hydro, maybe arguably best case. Most parts of the world it's probably done through coal. I'm actually pro-nuclear, so if you could charge that baby next to it with nuclear power, so much the better. But it costs a lot in terms of environmental externalities to keep the so-called green economy running. And we think, oh, I'm going to go buy a Prius and everything's fine. Well, I tell you what, go live next to that open mine pit, that had the rare earth minerals mined for those batteries, and you probably have a different opinion about how green that car is.
Absolutely.
So, we could have this debate forever about whether crypto is bad for the environment or not. The real question is what is the relative balance of cost for emerging new technology? What was London like in 1823, right, compared to what London's like now? Heck, London in 1950 was basically unpopulable. Sure, it was a gigantic global metropolis, but you had acid fog, right? So there is a transition period. I think, by historical standards, what we're doing with the blockchain is, almost not worth mentioning.
It really isn't. And then you think about the rate of change too, right? Even, with your brand new L1s that have popped up. I'm not going to name any names because frankly, I can't even think of any right now, that are completely proof of stake, right? They claim this entire, their entire selling shtick really is that they're a green blockchain, right? And that's something that we've figured out how to do in a very, very short amount of time. And then we've got Ethereum making its transition to proof of stake, hopefully very soon. So it seems like a problem that's already solved, right? So why even focus on it? But yeah, sorry.
Okay, I just shoot my opinion about this, and I don't even want to discuss this, but people talk a lot of ways to save energy, to be good for the planet, but people really ignore that. If you want to do stuff for the planet, if you stop eating meat, you're already doing a lot of stuff, and it's enough. You don't have to buy a new car or change the energy of your home for solar energy, something like that. Then it's okay. And just to come back to give my two banks, about the Rio story, I do think that what the mayor there is doing, it's actually a lot of marketing, to bring attention for Rio. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but
He's a politician at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Politicians are going to
with them.
politic.
He talked to the mayor of Miami, asked him, what did you do and stuff like that. But I think Ethereum conference is coming to Rio in March, and so he's kind of getting to use the politician kind of stuff, and also talking about, let's create the Rio coin, and also put some 1% of our treasury in Bitcoin. Like Diego was saying, that's not a bad thing, but it could be. I
And
mean,
and
could,
and, and we
I was
can
gonna say
forget
that
that
could
we're
it
gonna
could
have
improve
elections
yeah,
here in Brazil this year.
yeah.
So it's really important, to be kind of innovative.
But in my opinion, I think if he actually buys Bitcoin or getting in crypto, it can actually save the state, because Rio has been, through a very, very tough past, like lots of corruption. I think they swapped mayors for about 4 times now, governor. So it's the state itself. It's been struggling in the past, with a lot of debt. So if he goes towards crypto, might be a way out of this mess, if you know what I mean. But
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. What strikes me, it's something that I've noticed personally, is it seems like all of our elected officials worldwide seem to be, oh, what would you say, maybe 5 to 7 years behind the rest of us, right? Because right now here in America, it seems like our elected officials are stuck in this like weird 2013, 2014 mindset where, you know what I'm saying? And yes, it is good that Rio is adopting Bitcoin, I think. Are there better options out there for them? Absolutely. There are definitely far better choices, in my personal opinion, just on the Ethereum network alone, just in what you could do with your capital, right? Because what are they going to do with their Bitcoin? They're just going to sit on it and let it become the pet rock that it is. Whereas, think of all the money Legos that they could be doing if they had adopted Ethereum, for example. But anyway,
the Lightning Network is going to save Bitcoin. It's going to be okay. Well, I mean, to go back real quick, and then we can go forward. But so Bitcoin is, for better or for worse, the most widely recognized cryptocurrency in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so, and to also, just to highlight what you were saying a minute ago, it's marketing without question, right? And that's fine. Politicians market themselves, they market their ideas. It's kind of part of the deal, right? And that's okay, as long as you're aware of it. In my mind these days, anything that brings more awareness to normalize cryptocurrency is okay. And so even if, Mayor Pace doesn't end up, putting 1% of the reserve treasury into Bitcoin, it's still a win. We're talking about this today on a podcast, right? And granted, it's a crypto focused podcast, but it's also, when I was working on that story last night, I just Googled a few things, because I always like to look at other sources whenever I'm writing a story besides, the one that's on GMN. And I can tell you that this thing was picked up widely, right, across the news ecosystem. And so this gets people talking about it. It gets people in newsrooms talking about it. It gets people in their homes talking about it. And the more normalized it becomes to discuss cryptocurrency as a viable alternative to fiat, I think that advances our case. And so even if he doesn't do it, fine. It's still a win for us.
You're right. Well said, sir.
I agree.
All right, guys, just moving forward, before we ended this podcast, I wanted to ask maybe publisher here can help him out. Take some time to, like 2 minutes maybe, to convince our audience to participate in the organization.
Boy, put me on the spot, buddy. Let me think.
I'll do it for you.
Go ahead.
Do you like to write? Do you like to edit? Do you like news? Do you like the chain? Do you like community? If you like any of those things, GMN's a place for you. That's all we do. We build a community in our Discord. We build a community throughout the ecosystem. And we're doing that by writing the news every day. And if that is interesting to you, come join in the fun.
It is important to say, if you are a mercenary just to want to come here for the money, that's not the place for you. We're actually building nice community with a lot of people, cool people. And that's first. Money is going to be a consequence. So just come over, you know, if you want to ride, edit like Hero just said, or maybe help a publisher with the coding stuff, you know, just come over. There's a plenty of opportunities, and that's our goal for this year and next year, bring more people on board.
I'll say this, if you are a mercenary, no, come on in, because I feel like we could change that, right? I feel like we might be able to change you, might be able to convince you that there's more here than just financial incentive.
That is awesome take, actually.
You know, just to kind of bring us full circle to how we started this with our paper token, it's there really is a financial incentive here, and I can't stress that enough. You know, if you are somebody somewhere in the world where your country's economic system is completely broken and your own currency, you know, is failing, then GMN is a place for you to come earn enough money to possibly buy yourself dinner that night, right? You know, I truly feel that there is a real importance with what we're doing here, even as small as it is, right? There's something here that I think is really important in that financial incentive to contribute and to join.
That is awesome. Thank you. Just a little disclaimer before we end up. Everything that we talked about today, all crypto, Ethereum, Bitcoin, all this crypto stuff is really considered risky investment. So please do your own research. Don't do what we do. Just do your own research and yes. And yeah, we're here to help you guys to go to the next level. Thank you all. Thank you for listening to our podcast, and thank you, Bear Hunter. Thank you, Hero. Thank you, Diego, for coming by. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Gelfi.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Gelfi. It's such a pleasure. You are the best host in Web3, my friend.
Thank you.